Saturday, whatever. And then I also like when I at the end of high school, we had this like cultural show at my high school, right? So me and a couple of friends, we like ended up doing a dance performance. So then I was like, hey, I've never really danced before in my life, but this is pretty sick. And then in college, I wasn't part of a dance team or anything, but they had these cultural shows where you could like, I don't know, you could do just practice once a week for 1 or 2 hours. So it wasn't very high commitment. And then in like, I don't know, February or March or whatever it was, we'd perform our dance. So I did that, met a lot of friends through that. I was involved in some like medical clubs and things like that, so I made friends there. And I don't know, it's just as the years went on, you just form powerful relationships with people that you either, meet randomly or intentionally through these clubs. And some of them have become lifelong friends. And that's kind of how it formed for me. And then I guess after I did well on the MCAT and stuff like that, I let loose a little bit more. People were allowed to stay after 10 p.m., you know what I'm saying?
Like
And then
10:30, or did you
yeah,
push it to
10,
11? You're
10:59, 10:59. I'm kidding. So then I took a little more freedom and liberty into enjoying college life and living in the city of Chicago.
That's great, man. And I think too. So I guess talk to me about the progression. I think you think Anush had to grow from undergrad to then when you started med school, right? Because I know that's a totally different animal. I think from what I've heard from even my own sister and like even talking to you like that, it's a whole different level.
Yeah.
So I guess mentally, do you feel like you had to do things to prepare to be successful in med school, or was that something once you got, you're like, okay, like I got to reset what worked before wasn't going to work out.
Yeah. And a lot of people, as you said, have a tough time transitioning from undergrad to medical school, right? So one of my high school teachers once said this. It's like treat it like an 8 to 5 job, you know? Don't treat it like oh, it's a class and then like after that you do whatever you want. He actually said that about undergrad, but I think this applies to medical school. Like treat it like a full-time job, but what you do really depends on how you work. So everything has to be customized to your strengths in terms of what is it, studying, going to class, doing revising lectures, things like that. Because everything is online, right? All the lectures are recorded. No one's like taking attendance for every single lecture. So it's a very free flowing and individualistic process, right? So that kind of freedom with that high level of, required learning was very honestly, it was very tough for me. And I had just started to let loose a little bit right before, so I was like, okay, I got to really lock in, but I wasn't completely locked in the beginning. So that really caused me, issues in the beginning. But eventually, you come into your own, get help with friends, figuring out study groups, things like that, and that helped me move forward. I was lucky enough to have a great group of friends in medical school as well. So we would pick each other up whenever it needed to happen, and then you still had like intramural sports during med school, so you can blow off some steam in terms of that. But at the end of second year, you take what is it, USMLE Step 1. So that's like a major landmark, right? So then you spent like 2 years grinding in the classroom, and everybody like does it. I guess not necessarily classroom, like in front of a video where the video lectures are coming, or in the classroom, right?
Right.
And that all culminates to this really one big exam where everybody's like, oh yeah, this is going to determine the future of your medical career. Like you get this specialty, or you can get into something you don't even want. So very, very high stress times. And little did I know that was like the beginning of the high stress times, because it just keeps coming right after that. I mean, it was a process, right? I did USMLE Step 1, and then third and fourth year we go into the hospital, and it's all rotation, so it's completely different, but also the same because you still have to study. However, you go to this 7 to 5 job or 7 to 3 job, and then you got to study afterwards, and then you're like, dang, I miss the days where I can just study whenever I want. So then it's just like taking it up a notch. So then you acclimate to that, and then you keep going, and then you find out where you match, right? You apply to all these. So I applied to internal medicine, which is general adult medicine, more in an inpatient hospital setting, but also a little bit of outpatient training, right? So I applied to that. It was funny. I was doing an away rotation in Innsbruck, Austria, when I found out where I matched. I was literally on the train, like it was a Friday. Like I found out I matched during the week, and then we find out where we matched on Friday. And I was literally on a train from Innsbruck, Austria to Vienna, Austria. And this is like at that point in time, I had moved to the Chicagoland area when I was in fourth grade. And then I had lived there till the end of medical school, right? So here I am. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to match somewhere in Chicago. It's going to be great. All my friends are here. And then I open the letter and it's just like, oh, you matched in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I was like, huh, wait, what? So that was a huge shock, right? And so then I moved down to Louisiana. And then I feel like I really, at that point in time, I really grew up. You know, I was not near family anymore. I had to kind of figure out everything on my own. And, you know, a lot of people do that at different points in time, right? I was blessed to have my family always around me, support me throughout everything. And it gets a little harder to support everything your son does, or, you know, when he's in a completely different state, completely different type of environment and things like that. So it was at that point I was like, all right, it's time to really, really, really lock in again, right? So if you wanna achieve certain things, go to a different fellowship or a competitive fellowship and things like that, you had to really grind. You had to put your best foot forward every day, regardless of how you feel mentally, right? So you just got to put on a smile. And being in the hospital, you know, it helps with that. So just seeing patients and knowing that they're going through something worse and you being able to help them even in a slightly positive way, it helped me get perspective on how to, you know, reorganize my priorities and just get all in.